Welcome, everyone, to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast series. I am your host, Ann Alston, CEO and founder of ALSTNTEC LLC, and it is my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. For this podcast, I have the pleasure of presenting to you some methods and tips on how important information sharing is to business owners, and this can be anything from networking, word of mouth, or some sort of other marketing technique. So for the next 30 minutes, I would like to share with you some of the tips and best practices that I have found to be very useful for any level of business and any type of business. And after I share this, I hope that our listeners who is listening to this podcast would have received something that you can implement quite easily and that is very cost effective for you. And I will also share with you a special gift just for listening to the podcast, and I will introduce that at the end of the broadcast. The information I'm about to share comes from working in different industries and organizations for many years, and I've watched how they were able to collaborate with their organizations and their co-workers and managers, and I watched how they also marketed their services to other organization, businesses, and managers. And I found this to be very, very interesting, and I witnessed this firsthand, the end result on whether or not that moment of when they were consulting and marketing, whether it failed or whether it succeeded. So I'm going to share with you some of those experiences, and I'm also going to share with you some of the other experiences that I have come across in my travels as a small business owner that definitely made a big difference for me. Now, the first thing I want to do is put my topics into categories for just the different levels of business. And what I mean about the different levels is I'm targeting the very small, like new business owners who are just starting out, or maybe you are an individual thinking about starting a business for the first time, or maybe you are already in business, you're a very professional business, and you have about 2 years or more, and you have working capital, and you also have a good customer base, but you might need something else to help you along the way. And finally, the executive level, which of course is the fairly large organizations, and of course money is no object to them, and they can advertise as much as they want, and they can actually hire out professional consultants to help them with their business. But for the purpose of this podcast, I want to focus primarily on those small and mid-sized businesses, because these are the owners who are always looking for the best deal and the best way to provide service and marketing to their customers. As a consultant myself, I find that being a consultant, you are wearing many, many hats, particularly around the subject of selling your product and services. And this is where information sharing becomes very critical, because you will not be able to make a profit if you cannot sell your business properly. So with that being said, I want to talk about the first tip that I'm going to share today. Number one, consulting is much more than giving advice and recommendation. It is a skill and culture. When you are consulting, you are putting yourself in the mind frame. Okay, I want to repeat that. You are putting yourself in the mind frame of the person of who you're talking to. Not yourself, but the person who you're talking to consult. So anyone who's a consultant will not only give you great advice, but they will also tell you things that you want and need to hear. So their job, in effect, is to get to know you on a personal level. And they also have to know what your needs are. And then from those two things, they're able to provide to you the best advice so that you can make an informed decision on purchasing whatever product or service that you're interested in. So let's talk about co-workers who sell products, like a sales agent. When he or she is talking to customers, they are also consulting. And they are also providing recommendations, and they are also advertising. So they're pretty much doing all three in one. So, and what about somebody who is talking to you about buying something for the organization? Because he or she believes that purchasing this product is in the best interest of the organization, and before you know it, you're signing the check. So what I'm saying in effect is that people who consult know how to speak your language, and they know how to cater to what is in your interest, or what is interesting you. So when you think about consulting in general, anybody can be a consultant, but it's how you build it up as a skill, and how you display it as your culture, or the way that you do it is what makes someone who sells and a consultant different. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. So how does this tie into marketing? Well, now I'm going to talk about number two. So number two is, how do you take this notion or this concept and bring it to the marketing aspect? You can use the same philosophy in consulting to help market your business. For example, if you target your specific audience and you use graphic art, maybe some fancy words and other exciting visuals to cater to their interests, more than likely you're going to get their attention. So you're drawn to places like Facebook and Twitter and other social media platforms that many of you see on a daily basis, and you'll notice that each one of these small businesses are just giving you little splices of words that are catchy, that gets your attention, and then they slap a photo up there. And studies show that this type of advertising is much more popular than longer wordings and lots of photos on the same advertisement. So when you're seeing things of this nature, what is it telling you? It's telling you, or recommending to you, that you should buy this service or you should buy this product. Some people will go for it and some people will not. All you need to know is this target too small or too broad? You will only know this depending on the responses that you get from your advertisement. So if you're throwing out an advertisement and you're not getting enough responses, then maybe the target that you're doing is not quite the target, or maybe the target is too broad. Okay, or if you're getting just a few responses, or depending on the number, it all depends on who exactly are you targeting. Is it too small? Is it too broad? Do you need to narrow it down? This takes a bit of time and determination to figure this out, because as business owners, you have to tailor your audience according to the product and services that you're selling. So while I can give you some tips on that, you should know that any method that you use to market your business can be altered and catered to your specific need. So let's talk about some of the ways that you can do this. So one of the ways you could do this is try to send out a survey. Now you can do a survey via email, or you can send it in the mail. You can send it online. You can set it up on your website. Technology is endless. Surveys is just one of those things where people get it. They understand why it's there. However, when they receive the survey, they have the decision instantly whether or not they're going to fill it out or not. So even if you get less than 5 responses, it's not that no one cares. It really is all about the time and the value of the survey and what it really means to that customer. Are you targeting the right customer with the right survey is the question. So to be sure that your survey questions are clear and to the point to your audience who's reading the questions, you really have to make sure that you spend the time researching who is your target audience. Now, if you get 5 responses, then you know that there are some people out there that have an interest in your business, and they may not be located in all the general areas in which you're seeking. Now, I've experienced this myself when I was advertising for some of my seminars, that people in my community may not be of interest in some of the things that I was offering. But what I was finding is that I may pick up 10 people over here in Chillum, and I might pick a couple people over in Forestville, and I might pick a couple people in another state. So this tells me that there is interest for the type of business that I'm providing, but they're not located in all the places and where I think it should be. So this is where your research should come in. So what's one of the other ways that you could do this? You can go to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics and find out how many people are in your line of work. How would you know if your services are in demand or not if you don't know your competition? So most of the time, businesses fail. If you listen to my other podcasts about the number of businesses that fail within 2 years, they fail because they do not properly measure their competition, meaning the people who are doing the same thing as you. What are they doing? What is unique about you and your services, and how you would market this to your audience? And this still comes in, and I'm going to tell you how this ties into consulting, because everything you learn about your specific industry is going to be geared to how you are talking to people and how you sell it to them. So now I'm going to talk about something that is for the very small businesses, which is, we're talking about targeting the right people. And this really depends on the fact that if your potential customers don't know that you're out there, you won't be in business very long, because they don't know what they don't know. So if your marketing technique, or if you're not doing something that's bringing these customers awareness of your services, they're not going to know that you exist. So you have to take the time to strategize your potential market. So let's get into the meat of it. Number 3, how to find your target audience. This is one of the toughest things that small businesses have to deal with, because it invokes a lot of time and a lot of energy. Now, for myself in my own business, I spend hours, if not days, weeks, or even months researching the market, because I have to find out who is interested in my services. This target can be either small, large, or depending on what it is I'm offering. Again, I have to tailor it to what it is I'm offering. I also have to find out if it's in demand. Is it outdated? Is it one of those things that is maybe dying out and not yet outdated, but is on its way out? Whatever it is, I need to ensure that people whom I am looking for is going to buy and become long-term customers, because in the end, as a business, we have to have long-term customers. So part of doing your research of who your competition is and who your market is going to determine how long you're going to be in business. So this is very important if you're ever going to start a small business, or you're going to remain in business if you've already started. And you also have to look at the fact that we have economy fluctuations, and we also have an increase in technology devices and capabilities, which is growing in a way that everyone can do just about anything with technology. And for me, I had to consider the fact that I need to stay relevant in the market, and I have to be in demand if I want my business to be successful. So how do I do that? I have to continuously, I can't stress that enough, research the changes in the market. I have to research that, because the market will never ever stay the same. I have to research what has changed in the market, so that I know how to change what I'm doing and to be relevant and up to date, as I talked about earlier. And all of those things come together to attract the interest of the parties to my company who I want to buy my services. Now, being though I'm talking about all of this, we can't do any of this without talking about time. Okay, so time management. I know a lot of you out there are saying, and I don't have this kind of time to spend on the computer looking around for businesses, because either I don't know what I'm looking for, or I just don't have the time. Listen, everybody, if you're going to run a small business, you have to make time. You have to find somewhere in your day to spend at least, I would say, at least 30 minutes to an hour researching your market. This is utterly critical, important. You have to do it. And matter of fact, if you listen to Chris's project management podcast, he has a document that you can use that will help you figure out when in your day that you can do this. You can use it for anything, to plan your projects. That's an excellent podcast to listen to. There's also, we have another young lady who's doing a podcast on business mindset, and also talking about time, and some other people. So make the time to really get into the meat of your business by finding out who your customer is, how you're going to market to them, how you're going to give them advice to want them to buy your services. So, using those tools, you can plan accordingly, and you won't be able to waste a lot of time because you're going to know exactly who you're targeting. Now, let me just share with you just a short story of what is the detriment if you're not prepared in this way. Okay, so I work at another organization as well, and I get tons and tons of calls from vendors all the time trying to sell me their business. So, I can't tell you how many times that I get cold calls from local organizations who are looking to sell me something, and really came off with a really bad first impression, I would say. So for this one little story, there was this one vendor in particular who gave me a call, and the first thing they started doing was hollering off all their products and services without really knowing a couple of things. First of all, they reached the wrong department. Now, this is the worst thing that can happen, because if your organization has information on their website about what they do, what their services are, who to contact, and you still call the wrong department, you've made a grave mistake, because now your first impression is going to be that you don't care enough about the organization to properly find out who the person you need to talk to. Now, number two, which was another thing that they did wrong, was they started selling me stuff in the first 3 minutes, and it wasn't even relative to our practice. So, again, not knowing what we do as an organization and not knowing how to sell the business was the wrong impression. And then the third thing, which is definitely a killer for any business, is that when they're selling stuff that is, one, in the wrong department, you're selling it to the wrong department, and two, you're selling me stuff that's not relevant. Guess what? I'm not going to see the value. I'm not going to see the value in me wasting my time listening to your pitch, because now you have pretty much just ended it with your sales pitch because you didn't research my organization. And so I'm sharing that because it is so important that when we talk to customers, and again, this is consulting now, we're not talking about just sales, we're talking about how we are giving people the best advice and why they should buy our service and how we're marketing that. So when you don't do your due diligence of making sure that you have the right contact before you reach out, you are sure to lose your first impression. So let's get back to the marketing aspect for just a moment. And a lot of this right here, this section, is going to be targeted to some people who are just starting out for the first time, just like myself, where I had to first learn how to do it, because it's so important on how to market a business. So let me get to number 5, low cost advertising. This is very important for people who are just starting out for the first time, or maybe they have already just legalized and they need some help on what is the best way for me to market my business and really get that person to be on the phone, to talk to them and actually consult with them and tell them about your services. Okay, so some businesses, they will pay for advertisings. They would get it listed in newspapers, they would send out emails, they would send stuff in the mail, they would do it on their website, all types of technology out there. And many times this advertising will cost you thousands of dollars for just a few weeks or a few months of just having your advertising out there, right? So you can be creative and save yourself a lot of money by just using some of the free advertising that is all around you. And this is why I love technology, guys, because there are so many ways that you can advertise your business without spending a lot of money. And so what I'm planning to do starting Monday is that I'm going to share on my website some no cost money tips, things that I have done that I've literally spent almost nil zero to advertise my business, and everybody can do it. It's just a matter of putting forth the effort, and you can do it. Now let's start with the most simplest one. The most simple thing that you can do to advertise your business. Are you ready? It's networking. Networking is what everyone does. When we speak to someone and we are giving them our point of view, and it just comes naturally because we're networking with people, guess what? This is also what consultants and sales associates do to sell their products. They network. When they're on the phone and they're talking to you, they are establishing a relationship with you, okay, if you will. And that relationship becomes a connection, and then that connection becomes more of a partnership, and then as you can see, it funnels down. So when you establish that partnership between you and another organization, you both have a common goal to yield further business. Then you not only have consulted with them, but you have also marketed to them. And you see how we tie this all together. So, to put it plainly, consultants network, consult, and recommend all at the same time. So, consider yourself a consultant when you need to network, when you need to give a recommendation, when you need to, because giving a recommendation shows your expertise in that field, and it also gains the confidence of the person from whom you're speaking with. They will surely know that you're an expert in what you're saying because you have that confidence and you know your stuff. Now, some people who may be listening to this podcast will say, I'll just pay the advertising to a company and I'll just get customers that way. Well, yes, you can do that if you're a mid-sized business working with a capital and have an operating budget. However, there are a lot of businesses out there that have shoestring budget, and they just don't have enough money to afford high advertisements. So they have to do the very low of advertisements. So even if you use free marketing tools such as social media, sharing your posts on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest, you still have to perform that face-to-face networking, because remember what I said earlier, your target audience is not located all in the same area. You have to spend the time targeting those audience, find out where you can network, and then go. And this leads me to my last topic, okay? And this topic is a little sensitive, okay? Attitude and professionalism. Now, I want to talk a little bit about attitude and professionalism, because when you are a consultant and you are marketing to your customers, it can be a little sensitive if you don't know how to come across to people in the right way. And what I'm about to say, I want to be transparent on this podcast and share with you some of the good and the bad. I've had businesses who tried to pitch a product to me with a bad attitude, and certainly they were not professional. So, how do you cater your marketing materials in a way? The first thing you want to do is recognize that if you do not know how to cater your marketing material so that it is neutral, without emotion, but relevant to your target audience, what you will find is that people will not gravitate to your business. Instead, they will shy away and you will never know the reason. You know all what I'm talking about, guys. You know that about what about that text message that you get from someone and their email is using words that trigger certain emotions. And in effect, you start generating that emotion for yourself just from reading their text message. And then all of a sudden, that email or letter they wrote is in the deleted folder, or you just toss it in the trash because you just don't want to see it anymore. To a business owner and to a business in general, this is bad news, because people are not going to patron your business, and now they have a perception of the person running the business. And we've all seen that before, where we have one bad person who works on the organization who gives a bad impression, and it reflects the entire organization. So it's really important that we, make sure that we have the proper attitude and we have the proper professionalism. So one of the things I talked about in my seminar is that you always want to speak from experience and fact. Anything else comes off as fake or inexperienced, because remember, the person who you're trying to do business with is already making the decision on whether or not they want to do business with you, and they're already hinging on your every single word that you say. So just be yourself and speak from experience. You cannot beat that. If you do not know how to perform certain service, just be honest. Be transparent with it. Other organizations will respect you more when you are transparent about your capabilities, because it shows that you know how to stay in your lane, that you know how to delegate it to another organization or another professional that you have partnered with. And in addition to that, it shows them that you're able to partner and become a long-term partner if you're able to, send out another professional or refer someone else in that industry. So just make sure you understand that's very important, that if you can't do a service, definitely refer another organization. It just shows your strength in working with other organizations. If you tell someone on paper or in an email or even networking in person that you can do a certain capability, just remember you have to back it up when they ask for it. If you can't deliver, you have lost that client for life. Now, this leads to the last point, which is professionalism. Here is one experience I had just not too long ago from an individual who called me about a radio podcast blog, and he wanted someone to talk about disaster recovery. Now, I'm a security professional as well, and so I'm very familiar with disaster recovery. I've written policies and everything, and I was very happy to hear that he wanted to offer me this opportunity to speak about disaster recovery. But during the conversation, it turned very sour very quickly. The first thing he did was, in the first 5 minutes, he started shouting out about how we, meaning both of us, can get on the radio and talk about disaster recovery, and he would interview me and I would talk about it from a construction industry situation. Now, after listening to his proposal, I realized that I was not the right person to speak about this specific topic. And so I offered to, give it to someone else who has expertise in that area. And I was very honest with him, and I told him that I was not the right person to talk to. Okay. But he began to get a little forceful on the phone, and he started to get loud, trying to convince me that he had all the followers and that I would be losing out if I did not participate in his podcast. Now, after hearing all that, I had to remain professional. I could not get emotional as he was getting emotional. So what I did was I pretty much just came back on the phone without showing any kind of emotion, and just simply told him that I would think about it, or I would get someone to call him if we are interested in doing a podcast for disaster recovery. Now, needless to say, this guy wasn't happy. He began to say, "It's your loss. You're going to hear about me in the future, and you're going to be sad you didn't work with me." Guys, I didn't feel bad at all about working with him at all. But what I will say is, I don't get a lot of people who act like this, but there are folks who become disappointed when an opportunity is not there. And it comes out in their body language. It comes out in their speech in other ways. But you have to remain professional at all times, because you never know if that person may come back, apologize, and recognize that they were the ones who lost out on a great business opportunity. So remember your value as a small business owner, that each business has a value. And so when we're consulting and marketing with people, that our value is just as important as the next organization. So in summary, a business owner has to learn to consult and market in order to stay competitive and operational, because without learning how to do this, the road to success will be difficult for you. I too am still learning what it takes to run my small business, and I'm a very small business. However, things that I have learned from different levels of working in the different business areas have taught me one thing: that I am responsible for being professional, courteous, patient, and above all, myself. So with this, I hope you've learned a little bit today. And if you are interested in learning more about any of the topics that I talked about today, please do not hesitate to contact me at a.alston@alstntech.com. That's a.alston at ALSTNTEC.com. You can also call me at 301-324-3170. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can get all of my social media information down below this recording, along with any other information that I may post up there regarding this podcast. And I wouldn't be a true business owner if I didn't tell you about the services that we offer. Again, we have a special treat for those who listen to the end, so I'll get to that now. ALSTNTEC offers general business and IT business consulting services to small and mid-sized businesses. This includes business strategy, research and development, and implementation services. We also offer professional development training and empowerment awareness seminars for those who need confidence building or mentoring, both individually and professionally. To thank you for taking the time to listen to my podcast today, I would like to offer a 10% discount for any new line of business consulting packages coming out, and a second free consultation session just for signing up for one of those packages. So when you contact me, just mention the code BMWOC and you will instantly qualify for this discount. We have the beginner's business package for individuals and the very small business owners who are thinking about starting a business. We have a professional business package for those organizations that need some work around research and development, or maybe implementing a small project. And we are here to help you get that done because we are very professional in doing that. And we also have the executive business package for those organizations who is looking to streamline their technical staff or implement some type of software solution in their organization. So for anyone that signs up for one of these packages, will use the code BMWOC and receive a free consultation session in addition to the 10% discounts. So please make sure you check out some of the other amazing speakers on this podcast series and do your due diligence to support small business. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.